Welcome to Podcast on Infinite Earths, an unofficial DC Studios podcast. I'm your host, Porter.
And I'm your host, Tyson.
And we are writers, editors, and part-time filmmakers who love superheroes. All right, this week we're talking about The Flash, the 2023 film directed by Andy Muschietti. And it did not do very well critically or commercially upon release. And I think there's a few reasons for that. But yeah, Tyson, where do you want to start?
I just want to start with saying that upon rewatch, this, I believe, isn't quite as bad as I remember it being.
I'm kind of with you there. Like, overall, it's an alright movie, right? Like, there are way worse ones in the DCEU. I don't know. It kind of just falls in that, like, middle area of just like, yeah, like, it was good. Probably in that same category as, like, Wonder Woman 1984 for me, where it's like, I enjoy it. And granted, this one isn't as like strong thematically, but I do think that like just overall, the feeling I walk away with is about the same.
Yeah, or it's just pretty all right. You can appreciate some of the things that they did. I think something that absolutely blew me away, I guess upon rewatching, and I remember really loving in the original watch, was all the callbacks with characters, with themes. Like they went crazy in this movie, and it's really fun.
It's true, yeah. Starting off though, we both loved they do like different versions of the Warner Brothers and DC logo at the beginning, which is a fun like setup for how the movie's about different timelines, and I don't know, that was a nice touch, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean with the context of that in mind, it looks and feels really good. And I love I love that with the official like Flash movie title that they interrupted that.
Oh yeah.
Cuz it's a comedic movie at times, and I love that, that fits that beat, but also like I've never seen that done before, so that's like genuinely delightful to me.
Right. And just the whole setup of like the worker being really slow, and the shot of like him putting one raisin on at a time.
Oh, we were
just
dying.
Genius.
It's so good. And I love that they start us off with a conflict in which, the Flash is like the only one who can take care of it because everybody else is busy, and he keeps like referring to himself as like the janitor for the Justice League.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty fun sequence. I was equating it to kind of the Quicksilver mansion scene in X-Men.
Right. Yeah, the whole setup, I do like that he's just involved with this Justice League, which like one would think, well, no dip. But then when you see something like the Aquaman movie, which is great on its own as we've discussed, but like he's not talking with the other league members, right?
No.
So it's kind of fun to get a bit of that.
Absolutely.
And I did like that they kind of started with like the diner scene and him not getting the sandwich. He has like that little meter showing that like he has low on calories. And that's a smart way to kind of build up the tension of like he has to go save someone, but also he's not like at full power, right?
Absolutely. And that leads up to what I think was one of like easily the funniest scenes for me in this movie, is this incredible, hospital exploding, babies are flying out, and he sees just all the crazy, dangerous things that are about to happen to all these babies, and you see him reaching for a baby. And then the focus pulls to the vending machine behind it, and he reaches past the baby and just starts stuffing his face.
It is such a good moment. I mean, I think I actually have a list. So I remember watching the movie in theaters going, man, that is taking me out of the moment with some of the CGI. And I actually kept a list of times CGI took me out of the moment. Again, before we start on this, we both know that it is extremely difficult, and it is not the fault of the animators that it looks this way.
Yeah.
Right? Like before, yeah, just to get that out of the way. These are just times where I was, granted, there might be times where the CGI looks bad, but I'm in the story enough, or it looks a certain way enough that I can look past it and still enjoy the movie. These are times where like it genuinely like kind of made me chuckle, right?
Right.
One of those times is, and I'll go through this in a second, but I want to stay on this scene because you're right. It's such a fun setup, and the way he goes for the vending machine, and then just all of the clever ways he saves all of the babies plus the dog and the hospital worker It's very fun. Just the babies falling in slow motion is one of those moments, right? And I don't know how you would really fix that because obviously you can't have a baby falling and catch it in slow motion and just use that as like a reference point, right? Like, and it's
Yeah,
not
there's
like,
a lot of issues with
yeah, and there's
that.
not like babies are just easily, I don't know what the right word is. Like, it's not like you can have a baby sit in like a 3D scanner to like really get,
Knowing what little I do about 3D rendering, I feel like a baby would be immensely hard to try and recreate with just those weird, like they're very specific kind of wrinkles, and it's a strange look. And you mentioned it, but yeah, like they on occasion will end up looking more like old man than baby, which like kind of makes sense.
yeah,
But it's a
that's a
fine
tricky
line. It's
one.
like it's just dipping into that uncanny valley.
Yeah, this is one of those times. Do you want me to read off the rest of the list and just, it obviously jumps ahead, but then I
I
just
think
have
it'd
the
be
list
funny.
out of
Yeah,
the
go
way.
for it.
So, moments that the CGI took me out of the moment. The baby's falling in slow motion. That part when Supergirl's beating up all the Russian guards and she like slow motion blocks the bullet that's about to hit Batman. That doesn't really work for me.
It doesn't look great. I will say I freaking loved the visual of that. Just the
Oh yeah,
idea.
no, like the idea is cool. I'm with you there. I think it's just like the, I don't know. I don't
No,
know.
I'm with you there.
Um just pretty often, not always, it's more in like the time zone area, but like Barry's suit just looks off to me.
It depends on the lighting. It can look
Yeah.
pretty fabricated.
And well, no. It's a suit, it's supposed to be fabric. No. The part when Zod is inside of the cyclone, it shows like there's a shot of his face in the cyclone. And it just looks really weird. And then we could get into this later, but Nicolas Cage just looks weird to me. It
Yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah, but maybe that's just him as Superman.
No. So after the baby scene, though, or I guess during, there's a lot of cool, like, the Batman chase scene, I think is really fun. And I think it kind of showcases, I mean, we get to see the Bat Cycle, which is really fun. And this version is really cool. You said it's a great, if you're going to follow up like the Dark Knight Bat Cycle, this is a pretty good one.
Yeah.
I do feel like it shows a lot of potential as Andy Muschietti is, as of right now, set to direct the next Batman movie, which allegedly we're supposed to be hearing even a little bit about in the next few months. We'll see. Who knows? But
Are you talking like the James Gunn Batman
yeah,
movie
yeah,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
the Batman?
No, the James Gunn Batman. Yeah.
Whoa.
I guess
Okay.
technically the next Batman movie would be the Matt Reeves Batman part 2. I mean the DCU Batman.
That is mighty exciting. Yeah. I will say, as cool as the Bat Cycle is in this scene, and I love the action, I feel like the choreography doesn't often suffer in this. Like
Okay.
they do a really good job.
Yeah, I mean, while it can look a little dorky, this is one of those moments where maybe the CGI doesn't look as good, but I'm so like in the moment that like I just roll with it.
Right.
Is when Batman's like getting trailed behind the cars and he's like trying to move up to them. It might look a little funny, but like I think it's so cool that I'm kind of just like into it,
Oh,
right?
it's an excellent look. I think it's his like mask and cape. And maybe it's like the rubbery material that they're trying to come across, but that's the one that looked strangest to me throughout this whole sequence.
Right. No, that's fair. I did want to ask you though. So this is like this Batman is quite a far cry from what we saw in Batman v Superman, right? The change over time. We see, let's go over our Batman appearances, right? We get Batman v Superman. We get him at the end of Suicide Squad. We get him during Suicide Squad, technically, which I feel like mostly that translates the same, like it's the same vibe.
Yeah.
And then we get him in Justice League, right? And it's like really crazy how much of a shift that is, especially if you were just watching the theatrical stuff, which at the time you obviously would have to, right?
Right.
And then I feel like the leap from Justice League to this one doesn't seem as corny. I don't know. Like I feel like it just works better, this less serious Batman, than it did in the Justice League. Does that make any sense?
I'm with you there, and I think that might be all about tone in those two
Okay.
movies, where the Justice League was trying to take on a more serious tone, right? I mean, the idea of Darkseid and Steppenwolf, like they are very scary world-ending characters.
Right.
So him being a lighter version than he was in Batman versus Superman maybe didn't fit quite as well, where you're just like, where's that like scary individual that like took down the Man of Steel? We need that. But come to like the Flash, where like Barry's silly goofy and Batman is not silly goofy, but like can like is like
He
approaching that energy.
meshes.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it works better. Like they can work off each other a bit
Well,
more.
and I think it's not necessarily Batman himself, but maybe the stuff around him, right? Like you have Barry talking to him, obviously, but that bit when he's beating up the guys in the car and the driver just looks at him and just like jumps out on his own.
Right.
Like,
You're right. Maybe not him himself, but they surround him with some comedic setups, right? I
right.
mean, the lasso of truth was such an excellent bit when Wonder Woman finally pulls up and he's just saying factual things about Batman, but it's really funny because it's like Batman bearing his soul.
Totally. So funny thing about this, I knew that Wonder Woman was in this and that she had the lasso of truth around him before the movie came out.
Really?
That's because I was listening to it was I don't know. I used to listen to him a lot more, and I know I've talked to you about this very recently actually, but there was a Smartless episode of the podcast with Ben Affleck, and I was listening to it, and they were asking him like, "Oh man, like what's it like to be Batman?" Right? And he said, I've had a lot of fun with it, but the moment that I felt the most like Batman was filming that scene. He's like, yeah, there's a scene where Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth around me, and I just kind of bare my soul. And that's the kind of when it clicked for me, which is unfortunate because that's the last time I played him. And I was like, no, that's terrible news. But
Yeah, wow. I mean, I appreciate the insight of you on that. And that's wild that he was like dropping that before the movie came
dude,
out.
right? I was like, they let him do this. But hey, I mean, I got excited for it from that. So I guess it kind of worked. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just an interesting. I mean, and then later we have, I mean, we'll get into it, but actually, yeah, we'll talk about it in a second, the whole Batfleck thing. But I did want to say that I did like the action scene of him reaching the car. Good time.
Excellent, excellent moment. This is the overarching theme of the movie, but overall, they did a really good job with exposition because the exposition essentially was the story,
Right. Yeah. Like,
which isn't always easy to do. I mean, time travel is a beast to work with writing wise. And when it comes to exposition, it's not always easy to do tastefully, especially when you have a superhero with a defined origin who you've already established as a hero. So you're trying to like almost not retcon, but just try and like bring people up to speed, like they were trying to do in like the Black Widow movie, right? Where she was
right.
a person for so long, and then they give her a movie, that's after all these events, and they try and, a lot of flashbacks and things like that. But this worked really well because the moments that they were showing us mattered significantly because they were being affected by the current events.
I'm kind of with you there, right? Like, they did do a really good job of sneaking in exposition. I mean, you have the scene where obviously Barry's at work and he's like a crime investigator, but then the literal next scene is he's talking with his dad on the phone and he's upset because or Barry's upset because the video that Bruce sent him of the security footage that's supposed to prove that his dad was at the store, his dad's head is down. It like sets up that, before you get the whole flashback of like Barry as a kid, you get all of the, Barry's dad was at the store at the time of his wife's death, but that's why Barry is in law, right? Like he's not reaching his full potential because he's so stuck up on this tragedy. Like, they do a good job. You're so right.
Absolutely. Yeah, they lay out the stakes. They reintroduce us to his dad, which was a bit in the Justice League, and they kind of break down like why this all matters. And then he takes us to his childhood home. And we get him flashing back to that iconic moment of him like that like last experience with his mom, which is like a consistent scene across most renditions of The Flash. Is maybe not in this complete setup, but it's like him and his mama. Dad leaves for some reason, Barry is out of the room, and then comes back and dad is like holding mom, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie does have the benefit, like most Batman movies, where everyone kind of already knows the origin. I feel like this movie has the benefit of the CW Flash show being extremely popular, like way before this came out. So, granted, okay, total side fact, this movie was set to release in like 2017, 2018, like way back when they announced it. Like, it is a
Whoa.
miracle that this happened the way it did, but yeah, insane, huh? Like, I was reading a book about this whole, just how everything kind of happened and how it kind of fell apart and then sort of got back together of the DCEU. And I was just shocked. I just totally forgot that that was when they had announced it to be released. So yeah, 5 years late, but like we said at the top of the episode, like, yeah, okay, could have
Well,
been a lot worse,
that
right?
might be one of the reasons that people were so upset with this movie is the CGI wasn't perfect by any means, and some of the story beats, right? There are occasional plot holes and things that maybe people just disagreed with overall. And like we've been saying, right? Absolutely okay to wait for movies because we want them to be as good as they can be. So after maybe 5 years, having waited on this like predetermined release date, people could walk out of the theaters and just feel gypped, I guess.
Right, because you kind of get the double whammy of not only did you have to wait a long time, but you also didn't get the highest quality movie you could get, right? Usually it's like one or the other.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
And once again, an unholy amount of work goes into movies, into writing and creating them and distributing them. So I think it is silly that people think it's their right to like, just moan and complain about all the things that they've been like that they are like all the things that they're owed essentially, which we're just fans. I'm happy to pay for a ticket. I think these movies are fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Like at this point in time, just have fun with it,
Yeah.
right? And especially at this point in the DCEU where we had the knowledge that it was going to get reset with the new Superman that came out last year anyway. So it was just kind of like, might as well just show up and just not have any expectations.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, with the way they ended this movie and things like that, I think just knowing that like none of it is terribly consequential. I just like
Exactly.
that they seem to have a bit of fun with it, and why shouldn't you?
Yep, I'm with you there.
But yeah, this backstory and him kind of reimagining that fateful morning is a great setup for him just having essentially just an emotional moment where he just starts running as fast as he can. And that's also pretty canonical. That's typically how he figures out that he can time travel.
For sure. And you also get that like immediately before that, his mom's like, sometimes they're just problems you can't solve. Like it's okay to let it go.
Yeah.
Bro did not listen to her. And like immediately, you're right.
Right. And well, that's an excellent planting for later,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
And I will say, okay, I wanted to get into this. What are your thoughts on the visuals of the Flash running? Because there have only been like a couple live action versions of that, and there are different, ways they've done it throughout animation. But like specifically this version, how does that sit with you?
I think when it looks silliest is when it's like he's moving at a quote unquote normal pace, but or even like slightly slowed down, but everything about him is moving like way faster. I think that's when it looks its silliest, but even then I understand the like artistic choice behind making it look that way.
Yeah,
I'm not it's a tough one cuz I'm like 60% positive on it. Like I like it enough that it's not going to like kill it for me, but it's not how I would have done it.
sure. I guess the only other probably more notable live action would be the Flash show.
Right.
Do you think they did it better?
It's honestly been long enough that I can't remember exactly. If I remember right, they kind of just had him like just moving really, really fast, right? Like he kind of looked hyper. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the solution is. Maybe just split the difference,
There's
right?
like an easy medium in there.
Yeah. I guess we won't know till we see it, right? But who knows?
Yeah. I almost love that they pointed out how silly it looked with the build up and everything when, he figures out that he doesn't have his powers later
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah.
Cuz that was a moment that made me laugh out loud because that's a whole thing throughout this movie is that like very predetermined pose and like all that like energy winding up into it. It does look silly at times, but I do think that it also really works at other times. Like I was actually feeling like the emotions that he was feeling during this run.
Oh yeah, for
Right?
sure.
They did a great job with it, and I could understand where he was coming from, just wanting to like let out that really sad emotion that was like just overwhelming him.
I'm kind of with you. Like this story's emotional beats hit well when they need to, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets to the time zone area, and in
I
all honesty, I think this is the area, whether it's at this point in the movie or at the end of the movie, where technically the CGI takes me out of the moment, but I'm pretty sure it was an artistic choice to make everything look, because it looks way too off to not be an artistic choice, right? Like, I feel like they make it look like, I don't know, animated, but maybe they should have turned up that dial just a bit more to like make it.
really differentiate.
Yes.
Because yeah, animated is kind of the word, and it kind of fits in that category of like the video game cutscene where they want it to look as live action as possible, but they're working with only a certain amount of capabilities with rendering speeds and computers and things like that. So it's never quite like human because it's hard to animate specifically like a dead on looking human. And yeah, they kind of fall into that pit. But I like your idea of it being a choice because it all looks like that. And when it all looks like that, it works.
Right. I think those are the parts that kind of throw me out of it the most in this movie. And it's unfortunate that like a sizable chunk of the climax takes place there,
Right.
but we can get to that. But yeah, he goes back in time. He realizes that he can, but then he talks to Bruce about it. And this is the last Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne scene we get for the entire DCEU. And I think it's a pretty good scene. Like, I love the line that Bruce says where he's like, "Don't let this tragedy define you." And Barry's like, "Well, it defined you. Like, look at you. You're Batman." And he goes, "Yeah, but I'm alone."
Yeah.
And Barry being like, "Well, no, like, let's go get a bite or something." And Bruce being like, "Maybe some other time." It kind of feels like that yearning of just, he's not, he is alone, but unfortunately, he's not ready to move out of that yet.
Right. Like it is a place that he keeps himself. And yeah, it did have that finality, that kind of energy, almost that Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse not bad kid, right? Moment where he just gives him that
Totally.
little bit of a nod and gets in that sweet car, which is actually a planting for later, and drives off. And I'm sure most people didn't know this at the time watching it in theaters, but yeah, that is the last Batfleck moment.
Yeah, and after that, we get Iris coming over to Barry's apartment, and it sets up him being able to phase through walls, which is very important later. And we kind of get him telling Iris more of his backstory, kind of the more concrete, like this is why he went into criminal law. But I don't know. It's nice that she knows it now, but you can't help but be like, we as the audience know. Like, we've been told this. If you've been watching the rest, like including Justice League, we've been told this like 3 times by
Right.
now.
According to story beats, I mean, it does drag a bit here because you're just reiterating information, which doesn't really affect her too much, right? Like it maybe brings them closer together, but I think because she hasn't been introduced up until this point, you could just assume that they're closer than that because they're somewhat friends and she could know. I
Right.
mean, geez, in the show, he like grew up with her family, right? Like there's a lot
Yeah,
of wiggle room here.
that's true. Yeah. Anyway, so that kind of sends him over the edge. He decides to go back in time, and he puts tomatoes back in his mom's cart, which is really fun. And I like the way they do that. I like that they've kind of been able to pinpoint this event down to a very simple, literal ingredient. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something insane like he has to go physically stop the person that kills them. It's just putting a tomato in a cart, right? Which
Well, and
is, yeah,
even just such a simple thing for a young little boy to like blame himself for, right? Because she has that line in that memory where, Barry forgot the tomatoes. And it's, her being playful or whatnot, but like that's something that could like fester inside of him if he truly believed that.
absolutely. Yeah, because they'll remember that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They being like young kids.
Yeah. So I like that you point that out because that is a very simple moment that he can like make that change. And that comes into play later, like very significantly so. But yeah, we get him just being emotional, seeing his mom again and just like, I'll see you soon. And he starts bringing it back to the future. And we get our first introduction of the villain.
Yeah, I wanted to call him Reverse Flash, but that's not correct. So we're gonna call him Evil Flash.
Not a bad idea. He looks pretty dope, pretty scary.
Yeah, and I like the no introduction, just kind of like he just shows up and attacks Barry, pushes him out into his 18-year-old self.
Yeah. And I think what I like about this scene, because personally, what I would do in that moment is like, you take that hit and you like end up outside and you're just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah,
And
totally.
then you just, figure out what year it is or whatever and get back to where you need to get back to.
Right.
But he's on the street in front of his house. And,
Yeah.
After having seen all these memories that were like almost like rebuilt, reimagined because his mom is now alive, of course he's going to want to go see his mama. So he does.
Yeah, that part is very sweet. I like he's kind of just relishing like the dynamic between his parents. It's a very sweet moment, right?
Absolutely. And this kind of introduces our main conflict, which is him trying to deal with his insufferable past self, which
Oh,
I
totally.
don't know about you, but imagining me trying to like I wouldn't consider myself as like spastic as Barry, but trying to work with my younger self would be a similar energy where you just are like, why are you the way that you are?
I think that's the fun thing is like everyone can relate to that to a degree. So it kind of just a fun dynamic to latch on to.
Right. Well, especially imagining yourself at 18 years old.
Yeah, seriously.
It's fun. I'm glad that technology has come far enough that they can very easily do split screening. This is an element of VFX that's much less complicated than like CG rendering, but it looks good. Having two berries on screen like never once looked bad.
That's what I'm saying. Like people just don't realize the CGI that they don't see, right? Like street extensions, right? Like stuff that they wouldn't know is CGI
Yeah,
because it
compositing,
looks good.
replacements. I mean, there's a lot that goes into VFX that's not just right creating figures like Thanos kind of things.
Yeah, seriously. But I do like so they set up that like he's going on a date with Iris, which is awesome because it's kind of implied that our Barry never got to do that. And so it's kind of sweet that this new version of Barry gets that opportunity, but they find out that tonight's the night where, he gets struck by lightning and gets his powers, which creates an awesome conflict of like, okay, now we have to go get you your powers. Otherwise, I won't be able to get back to where I need to.
Right.
And it's a great moment where I feel like you get Barry's origin story, like his power origin story, but it's all, like you said, it's within the context of the story. It doesn't feel like exposition because they're actively having to do it, right?
Absolutely, right? They aren't like showing us the original scene or anything like that. They're literally just trying to recreate it and problems occur. And I think that's the fun part for those who know and also is pretty like digestible for those who don't. And I will say once again, it's crazy to me how like much the VFX in this like pendulate, especially just like these specifically like computer generated images are. They go from right uncanny valley to like what really like they just pass that off to like whoa. And this scene really works for me. The lightning coming through the window and like destroying all the glass. He's trying to like mess with Barry, and this is where all the issues happen. And I think the impact is prevalent. It's awesome.
It looks great. And I think the decision after is even greater, where they have the immature Barry now have powers and our Barry no longer have
But
powers.
it like cancels out.
I just think that's such a clever story device to kind of create a new dynamic, right? Because we still get it's kind of like that Superman without his powers idea, where like, are they still the person we love when they're not super powerful?
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
Kind of that Superman 2 idea.
And an excellent uh uh you're right, story decision that he's forced to rely on the immature version of himself that he's like starting to hate.
Seriously.
So yeah, we get him figuring this out in the building, and it's like a pretty tragic moment for him. We get the funny running and right, can't phase through walls, like it is a whole thing. And then he gets back to his apartment and he just realizes that he doesn't have powers, but the other Barry should. And he's like, yeah, so like you have powers. And he's like, I have powers? And he freaks out.
He's being a total spaz. I do like this part though, because we kind of get the excitement of someone getting powers that you would typically get in an origin story. As you said, it's part of this story and it's not exposition. And it works. I like the part where he's running and, all of his clothes catch on fire, because now it makes sense why Flash's suit is the way it is.
Yep.
Right. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I also like this bit in the apartment where he's kind of discovering that more than what he changed, right? It didn't create a branch.
That was an excellent first nod to that.
Totally. With like the Eric Stoltz and Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's Michael J. Fox. And it's like, oh, the guy in Footloose? Like, no, that's Kevin Bacon. Like, oh, like the Top Gun guy. And it's just like, what? Like,
excellent. And I think just even knowing like the context behind the casting in Back to the Future, that is so funny for the nerds out there.
Exactly. I remember learning about that after the fact and thinking, oh, that's pretty clever.
But yeah, we get him essentially just trying to make sense of things, how he's going to get back. He needs this past Barry to work with him, but he's just severely inexperienced. So, he's trying to work with him and just be like, hey, like, this is how you be the Flash. He's explaining things to him. He shows him his suit and is just like, look, it's stored in this ring, which I think is a clever thing they haven't discussed before, but like, that is a thing for the Flash, and it's awesome. This is where they introduce the main conflict of Zod coming to Earth, which I freaking love, because I had a really good time in Endgame where they went back to New York.
It's totally that vibe, right? And it's funny you say it, because literally my next note is love the Man of Steel tie-in.
Right? Like it's really fun because it's right, something that you experienced before, but you're now experiencing it from a different perspective and different events are happening. And I think that's the fun part of time travel, is re-experiencing something from like a different perspective.
Totally. And I love that, like, since it is the first movie in the DCEU, it feels significant. And you also get Barry's like experience of that day in our universe and how he kind of felt like a failure. And he's like, we can't stop Zod on our own.
Right.
We have to get the Justice League.
Right. And this is a funny sequence of him trying to Google all the different members of the Justice League, trying to explain who Superman is, why he's the only one that can stop him. And we quickly figure out that in this universe, like, metahumans aren't much of a thing.
No, I mean, he looks up Cyborg and he hasn't become Cyborg yet. And that's because he becomes Cyborg after Zod arrives, right? With the mother boxes. And
Wonder Woman is some strange magician online, but it's not like Gal Gadot or anything. It's just a strange name for a lady.
Well, I did like that touch because at this point in time, technically Wonder Woman is still like underground. Like she's not really.
Oh, yeah.
She hasn't like revealed herself to the world yet, which is a fun touch. And Aquaman, he calls the lighthouse and his dad picks up, and it's just obvious that never happened in this universe. And that's just a great comedic scene. I love
Absolutely.
it. And that leaves, he talks about Batman and they're like, well, Batman, right? And he realizes that it's a thing in this world. And so they go to Wayne Manor, and I just think this is a very organic storyline for where we are in this universe, right? Like obviously his first thought would be, let's get the Justice League together. Okay, they're not all here. Let's get the ones that are, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, he would know where Wayne Manor is. He would want to find Batman because, I mean, as he jokes about it being best friends with Bruce Wayne, but at the very least, they are coworkers, right?
Totally.
So yeah, they go to this mansion, and I love the visuals on this because it is decrepit, it is very old and abandoned, and I think that's a great like foreboding sense as he's going into this to be all like, well, I don't think this is going to be the same. And it definitely sets up where we end up. And what an excellent and comedic reveal for Batman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Michael Keaton. I mean, I love Michael Keaton as an actor. I enjoy him in practically everything I see him
And I
in.
feel like he's only gotten better with time.
Oh yeah. He's like, well, we can get into this later. He's like George Clooney, where like you love him in his older stuff, but like as the years go on, you just feel like he gets better and better.
Absolutely. And oh my gosh, I kept thinking of the movie Baby Driver in this scene. They have the song by Chicago, 25 or 6 to 4, and it's lining up with this like action sequence of just this, up until this moment, unidentified old man like wrecking them with kitchen equipment. And it's so much fun. I remember being delighted in theaters watching this the first time, and it hits a second time.
Yeah, it's a fun setup, fun reveal. I think, like I said, I feel like Barry is very logical in this section where goes to find Batman, realizes the Batman's Michael Keaton, and Michael Keaton, he explains that like the difference in this movie is that the timeline isn't a branch, it's like a fulcrum with like the pasta.
Which I felt like was a pretty satisfactory explanation.
Absolutely, and it kind of just does away with any like current plot holes, right?
Yeah.
And I do like that Barry is immediately like, okay, if he's not going to help, then let's just use his equipment, right? So they go into the Batcave, and it's a fun moment. They bring back the music from the 1989 Batman, which
Danny
I
Elfman
love.
cooked.
It's
That is
so
such a
good.
great soundtrack. And yeah, we see the old Batmobile. The annoying Flash, I think we're safe to call him, is zooming around, just checking out all the things, and it's just a great visual. And our Flash is locked in. He is trying to get things done. He's looking for the other members, and now he is just solely focused on Superman. He's looking for occurrences of, space debris landing in Kansas, of, he's got the back door into NASA. He's trying to find when something in our atmosphere was like out of the ordinary so he can recognize that was Superman.
Right. And you get that moment where annoying Barry is like really sporadic, and our Barry has to kind of grab him and be like, this is like really serious. And you kind of get a little bit of like growth from our Barry. Like obviously you get some by the end, but at this point in time, it's like he's having to babysit his immature self. And that is already a growth from maybe what he was at the beginning of the movie, right?
Absolutely. And I think, to your point, another human moment that we can all relate to where he literally shakes his younger self and he's like, you take so much for granted. You don't even know, like,
That's true, right? Super visualized for us.
it's excellent. And yeah, in this moment, we then get him just pleading with Michael Keaton and just being like, look, right, we need you. Like, I don't think we can do this alone, and we have a semblance of a plan. We think he's being held in Siberia, but like, help. And
Which is a fun nod because I'll get into this, but if it wasn't for some of the marketing, one could think, are they going to do like a Red Sun type thing, right? Where Superman landed in Russia.
absolutely.
So it builds up a cool, I like that nod, at least. At the very least, it's a nod, right? It's got to be. And here's the thing. Okay. Nitpicky Porter here. Batman pulls up and he's like, I'm going to help. And the annoying Barry is like, wait, like you are the Batman. And he's like, yeah, I'm Batman. And like, just to say that line, but like annoying Barry's been in the Batcave. Like, why is he surprised that this is Batman? Is there like a loophole that I'm not seeing here?
This works for me because Annoying Barry is a dumbass and he is not following like this series of events like at
Okay.
all. So
He's
like
aloof. Okay.
absolutely. So when they pull up to the mansion after like our Barry has told him we're going to find Batman and they go through that whole fight sequence, he's chowing on spaghetti and he's like, "Wait, you're Batman?" I think it tracks at least comedically for him to like forget that all over again. And I don't know. He did shave. He cut his hair. Like I'm willing to let it work just for that line. Like you said, like there are actually a couple moments where they just want Michael Keaton to say a line.
Yeah.
Which I'll take it, man.
And two of them are him leaning on a rail in an upper tier of the Batcave. Like
It's iconic. And for any of like the older fans out there must have been at least somewhat nostalgic because we didn't per se
totally.
grow up on those movies. We've seen them, but that's less so our generation.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's more just like fun,
Yeah.
right?
But oh my gosh, this is where we get the Batwing.
Yeah, it's so cool. I mean, it was great back then. It's great now, and it's fun to see it in kind of a modern context.
And the cinematics on the reveal of it, they just I think they knew what they were doing.
I think like this movie, similar to Wonder Woman 1984, there is obviously so much vision and care put into this movie that a lot of the parts that don't work, it's not always, but almost all of it is like forgivable, right? Because you're like, but you could tell that they cared so much.
Absolutely, right? This is not just some cash grab. Like there's a lot of heart and soul in this for sure. And yeah. So I think this is a great build up to essentially what is like our first, it's not like a training montage per se, but it is Annoying Barry trying to figure out his powers.
Right, in like a high stakes situation.
In an actual context, absolutely. So he's wearing the suit, they end up in the prison, and yeah, we get some cool slow-mo moments of him trying to like make this work.
Right, you get him trying to get other Barry out of the way of the bullets. At this point, though, I think we get the best like Michael Keaton Batman fight.
Oh,
It's so good.
once again, choreography tends to like cook in this.
They did a good job, and they get the benefit of Michael Keaton's face being mostly shrouded, so it definitely was a stuntman for most of the
Right.
fight.
I mean, they aren't forcing an old man to do all of that, but it looks so good.
But it looks good and it's believable and it's really fun. And I think the part that makes it believable is that you kind of get the less CGI suit heavy with the old man fight, so you like still believe that he's very spry and he can still fight.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I do really like this Batman fight.
No, it works. And I like that they have like all these buildups to like a final reveal of revealing that it is not Kal-El. They, have like the tank that they're supposed to get into. And the fact that Kara has shorter hair, I mean, the emaciated figure that you see slumped over could hypothetically be an emaciated Henry Cavill, right? With the black hair.
Yeah.
Like, I can see that working. So when they look up and he's like, that's not them. And Barry, has a heart, they rescue them. But I feel like leading up to that moment, we are all like, we're about to get some more Henry Cavill.
Dude, I know. And it's so sad. But I do feel like there's kind of a meta idea though that Supergirl is blonde haired because in most media she is. So to have her have darker hair is kind of a mislead, which is nice. I do like that touch. And I think it works. I actually think I said this before with the suit, and I think the Supergirl design for this movie is pretty solid.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
No qualms whatsoever. She's a pretty excellent actress, and yeah, like they did a great job with that. So I love this next sequence of like kind of the reveal that she is indeed a Kryptonian.
Right. And you mentioned this when we were watching, but them shooting Barry in the leg while he is distracted, annoying Barry, crippling him, kind of gives like a great stage for Kara to kind of beat up all of the guys. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that is a great plot device to like, yeah, take out the speed factor, unlike Black Adam.
Yeah, seriously.
And yeah, you did mention, right, there are moments where like the CGI looks less than realistic, but this is an excellent show of power for Kara.
It's super fun. I'm with you there. And I love that this kind of bleeds into them being back in Gotham with Supergirl, but I feel like this version of Supergirl is unique and it fits very well within this character, right? She's been imprisoned since she's been there. And so she's like, why on earth would I help humanity? And she's kind of just very gruff and very serious, which obviously fits with like the Henry Cavill version. But I feel like with the little context we've gotten of her life, like makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you come to a place for refuge and for the remainder of your life up until this point, you've just been in captivity in like just horrific conditions. Of course, I love that they included that as a story beat. And I have qualms with where it ended up, and we can get into that. But I like that was a motivation because that makes perfect sense.
Totally.
And it absolutely leads into Barry being like, well, if we don't have this super person, I need my powers back.
Right. Again, very logical, just last ditch effort. A very sad thing about this whole movie experience, which will probably be fixed for future generations, though, that watch this, is the marketing for this movie spoiled a lot of this film. So we kind of noticed that Batman agreeing to help the Flash was the midpoint of the movie. This movie is about 2.5 hours long, so you're quite a ways in. This movie's trailer gave away, and the poster gives away that it's Michael Keaton as Batman and that it's Supergirl. So
Yep.
everything leading up to the Supergirl reveal, it's well done, but within the meta context of having seen trailers or posters, it feels silly because they're building up a huge mystery that everyone knows.
Right. You'd have to be like pretty much blind for it not to be like a thing. But I don't know. Maybe that's like any other franchise where like they're reintroducing a character. Like I remember Star Wars 7 came out and, they bring back Han Solo. And obviously, it's not like a crazy surprise, but everybody's still losing their minds kind of thing. So maybe it was determined under that energy, but
didn't come off that way.
not quite.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm with you there. I'm not sure how you market a movie like this without those big reveals because primarily the plot points that happen outside of this context is like the beginning, like, fight, or I guess fight scene, the hospital scene, his like whole backstory, and that's it. Like up until that point, now you have, I guess you could maybe show two Barrys. But yeah, like Michael Keaton and Kara, like they're a big part of this.
Yeah, I think again on rewatch and not having those like set of expectations, I feel like it worked more as just a fun like, oh, that was well done, and not so much like I'm sitting in the theater going, well, what's the point? Because I already know it's Supergirl, right?
Right.
But yeah, that back at the Batcave, Barry explains to Batman why he did what he did, going back in time, and it seems like a retread, but it does serve a purpose with the annoying Barry listening in. So at least that serves a function, even though it is retreading plot. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Michael Keaton, right? It's good for him to now know the plot point. But I mean, with the Iris bit and everything, like this is kind of the third, possibly fourth time that they've rehashed this thing that we have now had like visualized. So yeah, I'm glad that they go through it quickly, right? Like it's not like a crazy long conversation, but yeah, it is another moment where you're maybe a little less engaged just because you're like, okay, like we've been through this.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess it technically leads into what you were mentioning earlier of that next logical step of I have to get my powers back, which I think is a good like pre-climax of the movie task to do, right?
Absolutely.
To kind of lead them in. So yeah, they get
And
ready for that.
I love the intercutting build up to this, right? They have them setting up the lab and trying to recreate the scenario, and in between that we have cutting of annoying Barry trying to create his own suit. And I actually really like the look of this
It
suit.
turns out pretty good.
And
Like, yeah.
the motivation for it, right? It just being the old Batman suit,
And you get the bit where he's like cutting off the ears and it's really slow, and
right?
that's a good laugh.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that was just a clinic in like editing and pacing. Like that just felt good. And yeah, like you said, a climax before the actual climax, like leading up to this. This is a great moment where it's like, will he get his powers back?
Right. And while this is happening, we get Kara. She gets to peek in on a scene from Man of Steel, but without Superman present. And it's when the government meets Zod. And Zod's like, "You don't have the Kryptonian? Okay." And he murders all of them. And Kara's like, at this time, we don't know what she's thinking, but she's kind of obviously shocked, flies away. But yeah, then we get back to Barry. He gets struck by lightning by all these contraptions.
And I believe another great moment of VFX in this movie.
I'm with you. And the fact that it doesn't work the first time is a great upping of the tension, right?
Absolutely. Well, and the fact that he is like determined, right? He's like, again, and you're like, whoa, okay, do it again. And then everything shuts down, right? There's now no way for him to get his powers. The system's cooked. And we get our savior, right? Kara flies in.
Yeah, and she kind of now she explains what she was thinking, right? Where she's like, Krypton is a place of hope. She
Well,
talks about the symbol.
She doesn't. Not
No,
right
this
here.
is after. Okay, my bad, my bad.
Yeah. And a small reason why I have issues with this, and I want to get into this, but yeah, she flies him up, electrocutes him, and there is still that like pregnant pause where like he's like on the ground, and other annoying Barry is like, come on, dude, heal, right? Like it has to have worked. And it worked, and he's okay, and we're all happy about that. And now they're just kind of gearing up to stop Zod, and he's having a bit of a heart-to-heart with annoying Barry. And then we get Kara
Okay.
in the background, and she is essentially just confused about why Barry saved her in the first place. And I'm okay with that motivation for her wanting to come back.
I'm with you. Yeah.
The issue I have with this whole thing is that feels like such a direct 180 for her to like essentially develop such a contempt for humanity for the way they treated her. I'm just unconvinced that her flying up to see like her kin just wrecking some humans would be like, whoa, I'm not about that. After she like completely destroyed all these Russian guards and everything, like that doesn't feel like enough to turn her away. I feel like an interaction with Zod where he essentially was like, yeah, we're going to drain your blood. And then she gets away or something like that would have been better.
I'm with you there. I think there's too few scenes to really justify this turn. I mean, recent movie that came out, Wicked for Good. I had the same issue where I felt like in one scene, Elphaba was like kind of a savior person, right? And then in the next scene, she's like instantly the Wicked Witch, and she's just like, fine, I'll be the bad guy, right?
And
Like,
that's not always an easy thing to do in writing.
no, I mean, it's hard to make it organic. I think I'm with you. Maybe Zod revealing that Kal-El died would have been like at that moment rather than in the final fight would have been like an awesome reason for her to be like, yeah, I'm taking you down.
Right, because she's angry with Zod. And maybe they can't do that because that naturally goes into her trying to destroy Zod. But yeah, it just felt like a weak motivation. But I'm absolutely okay with her if she wants to side with them, right? Because he rescued her just because it was the right thing to do. She can jive with that energy. That's a great story beat. But
Oh, and in the middle of all this, I meant to mention just because I thought it was funny. Flash has like a dream of like the evil Flash pushing about, just kind of at this like 3/4 point in the movie, just to remind us that he was a thing, which is like smart. But it's just
absolutely.
funny.
I love that you called that out while we were watching it. Because, yeah, like it would have made maybe a little bit more sense if he was like a recurring nightmare, an actual scary figure. But it was just this single moment to be like, don't forget about this guy.
Yeah.
And
But maybe that was purposeful, right? To keep it from like you show him too much and you can kind of like maybe start to guess more that it's going to be annoying Barry. I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know how you went there.
yeah, maybe just a thing that I disagree with, or maybe it didn't feel like a planting that was paying off as much. They were just trying to like insert it very unorganically. But yeah, classic dream moment, scary dude. And this, yeah, pretty naturally leads us into the next battle.
Yeah, it's the big climax one. And I think it's a fun setup. I like the things I love are I like the two colors of the flashes, right? I like that annoying Flash gets blue lightning, our Flash gets red lightning. it's visually very stunning.
Right? The different looks in the suits.
Totally. And I do like more Batwing action. I also really like that we get more of that classic Man of Steel action, although not as long winded, where you
Right.
get, them beating the crap out of each other and there's a lot of explosions. And like I said, because it doesn't last as long in this, it's kind of just like a fun, like, oh sweet moment, and then it's over, right? But I missed it. I forgot how much I enjoyed that type of action until just barely, because you don't really get that in Justice League with Superman versus Steppenwolf, because they're
No.
not like crashing through helicopters and stuff like that.
But
It's
yeah,
it's
like
very
big
contained.
hits and explosions, like it's like what you come to a superhero movie for.
Totally.
And yeah, I love that we get another moment where, annoying Barry is kind of like, I've never done this before, right? What do I do? And Newberry's just trying to walk him through, like our job is to slow down and distract the enemies, right? Kara's the big hitter, Batman is going to be doing the same. Like, this is how I fight, like, help me kind of thing.
Totally. And he shows him how to release his charge, which comes into play later, and it's really fun. And yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm with you. Working together and them just kind of having a camaraderie is a very fun event. One question though. Hypothetically, now that the our current Flash has his powers back, could he not just go back in time, fix the thing, and just all this would be over?
Technically, yes. But the
But
way that it was explained is right. This is an alternative reality. So him fixing that fulcrum wouldn't necessarily affect this universe too much.
so he's like, I would still want to hypothetically save this universe.
Yes, because he was
Okay.
talking about this is the one where my mom is alive. I'm not going to let her die again.
Ah, okay.
So I'm okay
Okay.
to sit with that. And even at the very least, it's an adult version of Barry trying to just like own up to and fix a mistake that he made, which I'm okay with. But yeah, there are moments where you're sitting there and you're just like, if he's fast, why doesn't he just go back? I mean, that is kind of the loop. That is kind of the issue with time travel. And that's why movies like Back to the Future and things like that, can be great, is because they will put natural story devices in there where the time machine is broken or something like that, that you can't just keep going back. Like there has to be something. So I see where you're coming from. And this conversation kind of naturally leads into like the final climax of it all. I forgot this was a story beat.
Me too. Like once Kara got stabbed, I was like, oh
That's
shoot, I forgot
crazy.
about this.
Yeah, and then the Batwing, and he's like, I'm just, it's been real. Like I'll go out in a blaze of glory. And I was like, I don't remember him like dying off like that in this. And maybe he does. It's less of a point of emphasis. Like they just kind of die, both of
Right.
them.
Because, like, as moviegoers, you can kind of tell when, like, someone dramatically dies just by the way it's done. And because this wasn't as dramatic, you're kind of like, so what else? There's kind of that question of where do they go from here?
Absolutely. And I feel like typically when you're killing off characters to have like that, like almost Dark Night of the Soul before like that final push, that like the Eagles are coming moment, they're not like Supergirl and Batman, like some of the more integral characters. They're beast characters, right? They're guards and soldiers and things like that that like could not possibly matter.
Right.
And the heroes may be down, but they aren't dying. So the fact that they're dying, you're like, well, obviously they're not going to let that happen.
And it's pretty great. I like this idea. So, Annoying Barry is like, let's go back in time. And so they go back in time, and we get to see one more version of this being played out. And we get a super cool scene where Batman's just like bombing this Kryptonian general, and he doesn't kill him, but like he knocks him down pretty good, and it's really fun to watch.
It's awesome. And
Then we
once
kind
it,
of get the more dramatic Batman death there.
right, cradling head and arms kind of
Yeah.
thing. Kara dies again, right? And this Barry's like, hey, no, we have to try this again. And you can see our Barry starting to see that this might be futile.
Yeah, and I do really like this as a plot point. Like I said, I think the time zone visuals is sometimes hard for me to get past, but I do love this plot idea of one Barry being like kind of realizing the lesson throughout the movie of like, okay, like we have to stop. This isn't a problem we can fix. And the other Barry not having learned that lesson yet, kind of being our Barry at the beginning of the movie, like just rapidly trying to fix everything, trying again and again and again. And we get the reveal that it's our annoying Barry is the evil Flash, right?
And
After many trial and error.
yeah, and I love that you point out the visual of this because the two of them sitting there, you get the one that's just complete ADHD overload in his head, like trying to like desperately fix this. And the one with the wisdom, the one who knows better, is just calmly trying to like work with him, explain to him, and also is noticing the eroding of the time force around them, which I think is a great visual of being like, something's going wrong, but Annoying Barry is not picking up on that at all.
Right. And I do like that, he gets like stabbed and things happen to our annoying
Do you
Barry.
remember? I don't remember. Do you remember, like, at any point calling this in the theater? Because I guess calling it's the reveal, but I remember when he got stabbed with that initial thing and it, like, left in his arm, and then he's in, like, the thing and he comes back with, like, more things. I was like, oh,
I think that was kind of the moment for me. And I do like that before they do the reveal, like the movie reveal, we see Evil Flash confront our Barry. And I feel like at that moment, you can kind of piece it together. And it's very satisfying to piece that together so that when Annoying Barry comes back and he unveils himself to be old Barry, it it's more for the characters rather than the audience, right?
absolutely, right. We're all on that same page. But yeah, it is like a dark and scary reveal. And a little bit before this, I love the callback to the planting of there's not a solution to every problem.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a thing that kind of clicks for young Barry. They have that classic flashback and everything, but he's not wanting to accept that. And that's kind of how he ends up in this situation.
Right. And they try to shock the evil Flash and it creates a hole. And now we're seeing all these different worlds collide and we kind of get a weird like cameo CGI fest of people.
Which I remember in theaters was kind of like really fun for me because we're getting the look of all of the older Supermans and a couple of the older Batmans. We see the older Flash. Like, I loved seeing the different renditions and almost that they were just confirming the canonization of it all, right? That like, no, these are all universes that aren't just like, cinematic reinterpretations. Like, these are all happening in different worlds, but this is just the world that we're in. And I just, as a comic book fan, I love the visual of that. I
I'm with
loved
you. It's
seeing
fun.
Christopher Reeves. He's such an iconic looking and feeling Superman. That was an excellent addition. And then, like you mentioned previously, Nicolas Cage is a strange addition, but funny, I think, given the context of his like possibility of being Superman at some point.
I think it's fun. I personally didn't know the context behind the Nicolas Cage, Tim Burton Superman before this. So I was more confused than anything.
Where you're just like, is that
Yeah, I
Nicolas
was like,
Cage?
what? And like after the fact, I was like, okay, I guess that's fun. But I think that paired with just the special effects did not work for me.
It's a strange looking suit, and Nicolas Cage with long hair is a weird, like, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, but I'm kind of with you. I feel like, I don't know. Like I'm with you. It's fun. I don't know if it 100% works for me though.
I mean, that's fair. At the very least, it's an effective visual of worlds colliding. Like, it is precisely that, and things are kind of going to hell, and it's all collapsing around them as they're having like this moment in this bubble where Arbery essentially is trying to be like, that isn't how you're gonna be able to fix things. And Ancient Barry is like, I am so close, you can't stop me from this. And Annoying Barry is just kind of torn between these two because you can sense like he sees the logic of our Barry and the fear of what he could possibly become. And this kind of leads to the like final sacrifice.
Yeah, Annoying Barry sacrifices himself to stop Evil Barry, which effectively kills Evil Barry because it's himself. Question for you though, wouldn't that also kill our Barry, or is it just at this point we kind of get the context that it's a new timeline? So
I think it's a new timeline. So our Barry is separate from that. I think this is the one like time travel loophole that they can't really get around, where, Ancient Barry was talking about he was the one that purposefully pushed our Barry out so he could start the sequence of events, right? It's strange because you made me, but I made you kind of thing. But essentially, that's like the snake eating its own tail. If annoying Barry kills himself, old Barry's gone. Our Barry never should have been pushed in the first place because he doesn't get old enough to push that Barry out. So how could this whole thing ever have happened? But that is consistently the issue you run into with time travel, is like, if you're ending a certain event that happened in the past, that should never have led to the sequent events that led to you ending that event. There's a Rick and Morty line where there's an episode that deals with time travel, and I love where he's just like, and I think that's about as much curvature as we're going to get from a time travel episode.
yeah.
And I think it's funny because it's really hard to get around that. It is literally a paradox.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm with you. There's just no explaining it, and you kind of just have to learn to get past it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think what saves that awkwardness is the scene of Barry going back in time to put the can of tomatoes back on the shelf. I think is like such a good scene.
It is. It is.
Like, it's heart-wrenching. It's so well done, and I feel like both of the actors just killed it right. And I think it was a bold choice to have him like actually interact with his mom,
Yeah.
because I remember initially saying this thinking that he's just going to swoop by. It's going to be some really sad music as he puts it back. But no, they make them interact. They even make them hug, and it's very touching.
Well, and it's a satisfying like catharsis for him to kind of like be like this is just how it happens and I have to let this go. It's a great moment for Ezra Miller to kind of flex those acting muscles.
Yeah.
And holy cow, yeah, like just very emotional, well done scene, and then has one final planting before like the payoff. And I actually like I didn't remember this like at all.
Really?
Yeah. And it is such a great way to like at the very least resolve the one issue that essentially has started this entire movie, which it is Barry trying to get his dad out of prison.
Right. With putting the cans on the top shelf. So he goes back in time, and the reveal of that is fun, right? He's in the courtroom with his dad, and they show the video, and it shows him, looking up at the camera, and it's super awesome. And we love it, right? And we get kind of that satisfaction, right? Like you said, of at least solving one plot point of his parents. And we get some Iris and Barry interaction. Kind of a bummer we don't get more of that in the DCEU, but it is what it is. And here's the thing. I think, as we're about to learn with the end of this movie, moving those cans did still create an alternate timeline.
Yeah.
Which is kind of tough because it defeats a lot of what some people could perceive as the purpose of this story. I do feel like because he let his mom go, that's like the emotional part, which matters more than the logical part. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you feel like them like then switching up with us at the end and being like, well, logically he's in a different universe, like that shouldn't have been a beat just because we just had the final resolve kind of thing.
I feel like, well, it wouldn't. I'm glad they did it, right? They addressed it, because him putting the cans on the top shelf did change something, and it just doesn't. I guess what I'm saying is it still works for me. I still enjoy this movie a lot because, like I said, the meta knowledge of knowing that it's inconsequential in the long run, so I don't need to be too attached to what happens. This idea that he has created just a new alternate reality for him to live in, I think it's fine. I could hypothetically see a lot of people having real issue with him creating an alternate universe despite supposedly learning his lesson about doing so. But anyway, we get a really fun reveal that this universe's Batman is George Clooney, which I loved in the theaters and I love it now. And I just love the line of like, wait, so you're Batman? And just that look that he gives him was like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Excellent, excellent interaction, and just honestly a fun way to end the movie.
Oh, yeah, because you end with a laugh,
Oh
right?
yeah. And I think when it comes to the Flash being a more comedic character, maybe the equivalent to like Marvel's Ant-Man, where like it's supposed to be funny story beats. Like he is silly goofy, he has that ADHD energy. I feel like they cooked on that in their first live action movie for him.
I'm with you there. They pulled off the tone very well for this movie.
Yeah. And a fun end credit sequence that is just all the great flashy names over the slow-mo of the dog falling.
Right. Yeah, you're right. That is a fun bit. Yeah, there's no mid-credit scene, but there's a post-credit scene, and it's just the Flash trying to talk to Aquaman about the changes in what we know as our universe. And I honestly can't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's inconsequential to even Aquaman 2.
Which I think is a strange choice for an end credit scene if they knew that Aquaman 2 was coming out and there was like zero tie-in for this. Like out of all the Justice League members he could have been talking to, we could have had another Clooney scene, him finding a different Wonder Woman or anything else, but an actual tie-in to like almost the last person to get a movie in this series.
Right. I'm kind of with you. Like, and as you'll see, I have thoughts that if they did decide to go this route, they could have done a different plot with Aquaman 2, which could have been more interesting. Who knows? It could have also felt like a retread. But yeah, overall,
At the very
it's a
least,
movie.
I loved seeing Jason Momoa on the big
Totally.
screen again.
Absolutely. Right. At the end of the day. So yeah, just quick question for you. As we've discussed in the past, I feel like this is the closest thing to the DCEU's Endgame. What are your thoughts on that?
I feel like if these are the movies that we have lined up, that pretty much makes sense. I mean, this is probably the movie that we get with the most callbacks and different characters, even though a lot of them are mostly from literally just different renditions of these movies. Because Justice League is easily their Avengers. It's the team coming together and stopping an initial threat. And they never got a chance to make an actual end game. But
Right.
yes, with like the moments of them going back to like Man of Steel, equivalent to, you know, the Avengers going back to New York. Like it absolutely fits that feel, even if it's not half as epic or doesn't have like the context or the build or even the audience for it. I mean, Endgame was a smash hit, like just insanely lucrative for Disney. And this was kind of just a nail in the coffin for DC, which is a little disappointing. I mean, like we said in retrospect, I don't think it deserves all the hate it got. But yeah, I think Endgame is absolutely a fair equivalency. I am curious, out of all the story beats that were hitting this and the loose ends that were tied up, how do you feel about them never touching on who actually killed Barry's mom? Because in some comic books or stories, it is Reverse Flash.
I think it's a smart move to leave that open ended because hypothetically, when they were writing this, they didn't know that the DCEU was about to get scrapped. So, like, I could see that as a hypothetical, like, we're going to leave it open ended because maybe the Flash sequel could deal with the Reverse Flash, which would make sense.
Fair enough. And at the very least, it wouldn't have to be like a time travel story. It would just be him, you know, finding out this new guy who's bad. And the reason he now wants to like defeat this bad guy is because the bad guy reveals that, yeah, I killed your mom.
Right. It doesn't need to be another Flashpoint paradox. So
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I feel like just because a lot of the Flash TV show centers around that mystery, this movie doesn't center around it that much. They kind of imply that it could have just been someone breaking in. I don't know. I think it's just that meta knowledge, right? Of knowing it's Reverse Flash, but like they didn't touch on it. I don't know.
It's interesting. And I think naturally fits as like not being an essential story point because the point was his mom has to die. And the point was he's trying to get his dad out of prison. And they solved both of those things essentially.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, this is a long one, and we really appreciate y'all sticking with us through it. A lot of fun kind of watching the wrap up to the DC universe, though we do have two more official movies left and then a watch through of the extended version of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Next week, we are watching Blue Beetle, which is a fun one. It's a character that hasn't gotten a lot of screen time, and I think it's cool that they made a movie about it. I remember enjoying it for the most part, but I'm excited to kind of give it a critical watch through.
I'm with you there. I haven't seen it since theaters. I don't think I was as warm to it, but I'm excited for a rewatch. So, yeah, we'll see you next time.
See y'all.